boys and girls. This is Mrs. Butron. As you know, I teach first grade at Harbordale, and I'm so excited to be a part of the Harbordale Book Club. I have chosen to read aloud to you a really great story called Brothers at Bat. It's written by Audrey Vernick and illustrated by Stephen Salerno. It's the true story of an amazing all-brother baseball team. Before I begin to read it to you, I wanted to give you a little background information. If you watched the Guess Who video, you might have realized that I'm an amazing baseball fan. I love the sport, and I particularly love the New York Yankees. Right now, boys and girls, we're facing some hard times, having to not do things that we normally would love to do. Things like attending school every day to see our classmates and learn more with our teachers in our own classrooms. Things like not being able to go to places we normally would enjoy, or being able to participate in things such as playing baseball. Perhaps you play on a little league team. I know we can't even watch it on TV for the most part. I hear rumor that in July the Major League Baseball teams might begin a shorter season. All of this is called making sacrifices, and it certainly is a hard thing to do, but it's something that we all face at some time, and all of us are facing it right now, not only in our country, but in the world. And making sacrifices is actually a really good thing, because it helps not only ourselves and our families, but all people. This story was it started out in the 1920s and moved to the 1930s, the 1940s, and even into the 1950s. In those days, people had to sacrifice a lot. And it's hard to believe, but they really sacrificed even more than we have had to do. We faced in the 1930s what was called the Great Depression, when people didn't have a lot of money and often didn't have jobs, but they had to work together to help one another. And then it moved into the 1940s when we had a very unfortunate war that was quite large called the World War II, and many sacrifices were made during that time. The brothers that are on this baseball team made many sacrifices, not only to help each other and their family, but to help their country and ultimately the world. And so this story teaches a lot about perseverance and being kind to one another and teamwork. I love baseball for that reason, because it teaches us all of those wonderful character traits. It teaches us how to be really great people by working together, playing fairly, depending on one another, and all those things we need to do right now or have been doing. So I hope you'll sit back and take a few minutes to enjoy this really great story, Brothers at Bat. There's the dedication page. The family in the story's last name is an unusual one. It's an Italian name and is pronounced Acerdas, and it's dedicated to the Acerdas of the past, present, and future. We see them in a really fun old station wagon of sorts where they're traveling to their baseball games. When winter's chill melts into spring, back doors swing open and slap shut as kids just home from school run outside, mitts, bats, and balls in hand. In one New Jersey town near the ocean, back in the 1920s and 30s, you could hear the same door slam over and over. 3 brothers raced out. Slap, slap, slap. Out went 3 more. Slap, slap, slap. And more. Slap, slap, slap. And still more. Slap, slap, slap. It sounds like a fairy tale. 12 baseball-playing brothers. But Anthony, Joe, Paul, Alfred, Charlie, Jimmy, Bobby, Billy, Freddie, Eddie, Bubby, and Louie Acerda were real. They had 4 sisters too, Catherine, Florence, Rosina, and Frances, and a white dog named Pitch. The sisters didn't play ball. Back then, most people thought sports were just for boys. The Acerdas had so many kids that they slept 2 to a bed and sat 3 across in their outdoor bathroom. They ate dinner wherever they could find a seat. Even on a baseball field, there were more boys than positions, but that didn't stop them from playing. Baseball set the rhythm of their lives. Every spring, Freddie said, you would take your glove out, go in the yard and play. Neighbors couldn't recall a time when there weren't Achota boys outside tossing the ball, hitting it hard, racing around, with the young ones watching, wishing they were old enough to play. Their high school baseball team had an Achota on it 22 years in a row. In 1938, the brothers ranged in age from 7 to 32. The oldest 9 formed their own semi-pro team and competed against each other and against other New Jersey teams. Their father coached them and never missed a game. Their uniforms all said the same thing, Achotas. The infields they played on were dirt. Outfields were littered with rocks and sand. The brothers loved to talk about the day they played at the old dog track, an oceanfront stadium that had once been an auto raceway. It was there that Anthony, the oldest, hit a couple of home runs right into the Atlantic Ocean. They called Anthony Poser because of the way he'd stand at the plate, as if his baseball card photo were being taken. Charlie, the 5th oldest, was the slowest brother. He was a good player, but a terrible runner. The brothers often joked about the time he hit a ball nearly out of the park, but only made it to second. Jimmy, the 6th brother, had a knuckleball people still talk about. You couldn't hit it, Eddie said. You couldn't catch it either. That ball danced in the air. Jimmy was a great hitter too, probably the best player on the team. But there was no jealousy, no rivalry, no fighting. As the younger brothers grew up, the older ones shared playing time. If someone dropped a fly ball or struck out, no one screamed or threw down his glove or stomped off the field. We stuck together, Freddie said. The team played around New Jersey, in New York, Connecticut, wherever they could find a good game. Paul sent out letters looking for new teams to play. The all-brother team always drew big crowds. In 1939, at the New York World's Fair, the Achotas were honored as the biggest family in New Jersey. They were taken to the Newark airport where they boarded a plane and were flown over the fairgrounds. They couldn't believe it. No one they knew had been on a plane before. Most of the people at the World's Fair looking up at that small plane in the sky had no idea there was a whole team of brothers aboard. But it wasn't all fun and games in sunny skies. The darkest day occurred on the field too. Freddie was on third base in a scoreless game. Alfred was at the plate. He touched his shoulder, the signal that he was going to bunt. Then things went wrong. The pitch came in high and somehow the ball bounced off the bat and hit Alfred hard, right in the face. They rushed him to the doctor, but he lost an eye. For the next few months, Eddie took Alfred's place as catcher. Everyone thought Alfred's baseball days were over. But when you have 11 brothers willing to throw you balls in the yard, gently at first and then a bit harder, you get your skills back. You get your courage back too. Alfred was soon wearing the Achotas uniform again. He was a pretty good catcher for a guy with one eye, Freddie said. In the 1940s, something pulled the brothers' attention away from baseball. American soldiers were fighting in the Second World War across the Atlantic, that same huge ocean Poser had hit baseballs into. Battles were raging and soldiers were dying, but the brothers knew it was important to fight for their country. The team disbanded as 6 Achota brothers joined the service. Jimmy was the first to go. He, Charlie, Eddie, and Bobby all served in the Army. After Billy joined the Marines, Freddie did too. Those 6 brothers traveled far from home. After a lifetime of talking and playing together every day, they now went months, years without seeing one another. They longed for the salty stew smell of the Atlantic Ocean. They dreamed of their childhood home, of the back door slap, slap, slapping as they ran outside to play, and of long afternoons throwing the ball in high soaring arcs from glove to glove to glove in a field full of brothers. Back in New Jersey, their parents and siblings waited for news. It took a long time for letters to reach them from overseas. There was a lot of time to worry. When the war finally ended, everyone was so happy. Eddie, out in California with the Army, was so excited that he went up to women he didn't even know and kissed them. Many American soldiers died in World War II, but the Acerdas were very lucky. One by one, all 6 brothers returned from their time in the service. Mama Acerda cried each time a boy walked in the door. By the summer of 1946, the family was ready to get back to baseball. They were all older, of course, and Posier's heart had grown weak, so now he coached the team. They joined the Long Branch City Twilight Baseball League, and over the next 6 years, won the league championship 4 times. Every Sunday, crowds filled the stands to watch the all-brother team play. As time passed, the Acerdas got married and moved into their own homes. They worked hard at their jobs, at the water company, at the post office, selling insurance. They started having children of their own. In 1952, they played their last game as a team, but they had already made history. History? It's true. The Acerda brothers were the longest playing all-brother baseball team ever. In 1997, the Baseball Hall of Fame held a special ceremony to honor them. Only 7 were still alive. Paul, Alfred, Bobby, Billy, Freddie, Eddie, and Bubby all made the trip, along with more than 100 relatives, including their sister Frances. Jimmy's son donated his father's uniform and glove, which were put on display right there in the same museum that honored Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and Willie Mays. They treated us like we were kings, Freddie said. After such a thrilling day, you could picture them driving off into the sunset, happily ever after. But their bus broke down. They could have sat on the curb grumbling in the summer heat, but someone found a bat and ball, and as 3 generations of Acerdas waited for a new bus, they played ball. That ball soared from grandfather to granddaughter, from father to son, from brother to brother. And this lets us know all about the team, the brothers, and the team that made who they were. It also tells us somewhat about the author and the artist who did this wonderful story. Says it's safe to say that the Acerda team was the longest playing all-brother team in baseball history. We just read this remarkable story. It was just incredible. I hope you enjoyed it.